I'm Jeff Smith, and I'm going to tell you the story of Ruth and Naomi using one of our story bags. These story bags are trick bags that change color as you turn the bag inside out. And what you do is you just put your hand inside the bag here and grab the bottom of it. And as you pull the fabric out of the bag, the new fabric panel is revealed, and it tells you more of the story, so you can tell the story in sequential order. And each one of these fabric panels serves as prompts to help you tell the story in such a way that the audience, preferably the kids, can retell the story, and that's effective storytelling. All right? Each of our story bags comes with a story card, and this is just a simple story format that I write up so that you can help tell the story, and I'll use that as I tell you the story of Ruth and Naomi. All right? So, this is a story about a woman and her daughter-in-law. Her name was Naomi. The story begins when Naomi and her husband Elimelech, along with their 2 sons, had to leave their home and travel to a place called Moab because there was a famine, which means there was no food, there was no bread to eat. So, Naomi's husband died in Moab, but her sons married girls from that region. Both of her boys died in the battle after they were married. When food was available again in Bethlehem, well, Naomi decided to go home. She told both of her sons' wives that they should stay in Moab and get remarried and have families. One of the girls, Ruth was her name, said, "I will follow you." And so Ruth and Naomi went back to Bethlehem together. Like the hearts in this pattern, Ruth loved Naomi like she was her own mother. In the next panel, we find out that they were in a wheat field gleaning. And it was harvest time, and the farmers would often leave some grain in the fields for the poor to eat. Since Ruth and Naomi didn't have any work, Ruth gleaned in the wheat fields of a man named Boaz so that they would have food. One day, Boaz, the farmer, saw Ruth working in his field, and he fell in love with her. He said, "Who is that woman?" The foreman said, "It is the Moabite who returned with your relative Naomi." You see, they were related. Naomi was related to Boaz. So Boaz had his workers leave some extra grain behind so that Ruth and Naomi would have more to eat. Something's gonna happen. At the end of the harvest time, Naomi told Ruth to go to the threshing floor. That was the place where they harvested the wheat. And Boaz and his men would be sleeping on the floors there. She told Ruth to remove the beautiful blanket covering Boaz's feet and wrap herself in it. That's what Ruth did. When Boaz awoke, he said, "Who is there?" Ruth replied, "It is Ruth. I am a relative of yours," which is true by marriage. Boaz was very pleased because, well, he wanted to marry Ruth and he loved her. He sent her home that day with lots of good food. Well, there was still one more thing that had to be done before Boaz could marry Ruth. He had to go to another man who had the first rights to marry Ruth and ask him for permission to marry her instead. The man did not want to marry Ruth, so the 2 men exchanged sandals. That would be like shaking hands today. It was a done deal. And so Boaz married Ruth, and they had a son named Obed. From this line, Jesus would one day be born. You see, according to our story, good things happen when you follow God.